Welcome back to the Harvest to Table video channel, where we help you grow your own fresh produce at home. Today we're diving into the world of tomatoes, looking at the entire process of growing tomatoes from variety selection to harvest. Whether you're a first-time gardener or a seasoned pro, by the end of this video, you'll have all the know-how to cultivate thriving tomato plants. These tips will help you grow tomatoes that will make your neighbors envious. Let's get started. A tomato is a warm-season fruiting plant that thrives in full sun and fertile, well-drained soil. Tomatoes are native to semi-tropical western South America. They are commonly grown as an annual in northern temperate climates. It's best to plant tomatoes after the average last frost date in your region, when the soil and air have warmed sufficiently for optimal growth. Tomatoes come in a wide range of varieties, offering diverse sizes from tiny currant and cherry tomatoes to large beefsteaks, and an array of colors like red, yellow, orange, green, purple, and even striped. Tomato flavors range from sweet to tangy to rich and complex. Let's start with tomato types and varieties. First things first, how to pick the right tomato variety for your garden. There are three types of tomato growth habits: determinate, indeterminate, and semi-determinate. Determinate varieties are bushy plants that grow about 3 to 4 feet tall. They are great for container gardens and smaller spaces. Determinate tomatoes tend to produce one crop of fruit that comes to harvest all at the same time. Determinate tomatoes are a good choice for folks who can and preserve tomatoes and need a lot of fruit all at once. Determinate varieties include Roma, a plum tomato known for its meaty texture and suitability for sauces and canning; San Marzano, a premium Italian plum tomato, highly prized for paste and sauces; and Better Bush, a compact plant with large, flavorful slicing tomatoes. Next are indeterminate varieties. Indeterminates are tall-growing, vining plants that need plenty of room to grow. They can grow 6 to 12 feet tall. Unlike determinate tomatoes, they flower and produce fruit all season long. Indeterminate tomatoes require stakes or cages for support. Indeterminate varieties include Brandywine, a large heirloom variety with excellent flavor; Cherokee Purple, another heirloom with a rich, smoky flavor; and Sweet 100, a prolific cherry tomato that produces sweet, small fruits all season. The third type of tomato are the semi-determinates. These varieties have characteristics of both determinate and indeterminate varieties. They grow 4 to 6 feet tall, taller than determinates, but more compact than indeterminate types. Semi-determinate tomatoes produce fruit over a longer period than determinate tomatoes, but not continuously, like indeterminate varieties. Semi-determinate varieties include Celebrity, a disease-resistant, medium-sized tomato with an extended harvest period; Glacier, a cold-hardy, early-producing tomato with compact growth; and Mountain Magic, a small to medium tomato that offers disease resistance and good flavor. If your space is limited or you want to grow in containers, choose a determinate or semi-determinate variety. If you've got room to grow and can provide support for vining plants, choose an indeterminate variety. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. You can also choose tomatoes by when they come to harvest, what size, shape, and color they grow, and how they are used. First, let's consider harvest time. Growers often choose tomatoes by when a variety comes to harvest: early in the summer, midsummer, or late in the summer. Look at the number of days to harvest or maturity on a tomato seed packet to know when the plant will produce fruit. Early season tomatoes come to harvest 50 to 65 days after transplanting. Mid-season tomatoes come to harvest 66 to 80 days after transplanting, and late-season tomatoes come to harvest 81 or more days after transplanting. Early season varieties include Early Girl, Stupus, and Glacier. Mid-season varieties include Celebrity, Cherokee Purple, and Sun Gold. Late-season varieties include Brandywine, San Marzano, and Mortgage Lifter. Here is an important note when referring to the number of days to harvest or maturity. Tomato growers count the days from transplanting, not the days from seed sowing, in the days to harvest. Because tomatoes are commonly started indoors, not directly in the garden, the days to harvest on a tomato seed packet do not include the number of days it took to grow the plant to transplant size. Tomato transplants are usually large enough to go into the garden 6 to 8 weeks after seed sowing. So, for example, the seed packet for the variety Early Girl lists 55 days to harvest. 55 days does not count the 6 weeks or 42 days it took to grow Early Girl to transplant size. If you are growing Early Girl from seed, be sure you allow nearly 100 days for that plant to reach harvest if you are growing from seed. To get the longest and most productive harvest each year, plant at least one early maturing tomato, one mid-season tomato, and one late-season tomato. This will ensure a harvest of fresh fruit over 2 to 4 months each year. Next, let's consider tomato shapes and sizes and color. Did you know there are more than 10,000 varieties of tomatoes worldwide? You can choose tomatoes by shape and color. Common tomato shapes and sizes include currant, cherry, grape, plum, pear, heart, ribbed, globe, and beefsteak. Most of these descriptors tell you exactly how the tomatoes look. Currant tomatoes are tiny, finger-sized. Cherry tomatoes are small and round, like cherries. Grape tomatoes are small and oblong, like grapes. Plum tomatoes are oval like plums. Pear tomatoes are shaped like a pear, but smaller. You get the idea. Globe-shaped tomatoes are the standard-sized tomatoes you commonly see at grocery stores. Beefsteak tomatoes are large and often irregularly shaped. Some weigh as much as 2 or 3 pounds. When it comes to color, not all tomatoes are red. Besides red tomatoes, there are pink, deep purple, brown, yellow, orange, white, green, bright green, and striped, streaked, swirled tomatoes. The color of a tomato is determined by both the color of the flesh below the skin and the tint of the skin. Flesh and skin colors are determined by genetics. Flesh and skin color can affect flavor. Often, light-colored tomatoes have a mild flavor, and deep-colored tomatoes have a more rich, complex flavor. Deep red tomatoes commonly have what is called a traditional tomato flavor. Tasting is the best way to know what colors you prefer. Lastly, you can choose a tomato to grow by how it can be used in the kitchen. When it comes to kitchen use, there are 3 broad uses for tomatoes. First, tomatoes for slicing and fresh eating out of hand, or on salads. Second, tomatoes for canning and pickling. And third, tomatoes for cooking soups and sauces. When it comes to fresh eating, you will likely prefer a cherry tomato, globe tomato, or beefsteak tomato. Cherry tomatoes are bite-sized. Globe and beefsteak tomatoes are fleshy and hold their shape when sliced. Plum-shaped tomatoes are the choice of most cooks for preparing sauces and soups. They have a good balance between flesh and juice. Another note on selecting a tomato to grow in your garden. you will see on tomato seed packets and labels that there are hybrid and heirloom tomato varieties. What's the difference? Heirloom tomatoes are open-pollinated varieties, passed down through generations, prized for their unique shapes, colors, and rich, complex flavors. Open-pollinated refers to plants that are pollinated naturally by insects, birds, wind, or other natural mechanisms without human intervention. Hybrids are the result of crossbreeding two different varieties to enhance traits like disease resistance, yield, and uniformity, though they may sacrifice some flavor complexity. Hybrids are created by plant breeders. They are bred from two specific parent varieties. Hybrids won't grow true to type if you save their seeds, as their offspring will have unpredictable traits. Neither heirlooms nor hybrids are inherently better than the other. Heirlooms often win on taste, while hybrids are ideal for gardeners seeking reliability and productivity. Popular heirlooms include Black Krim, Cherokee Purple, and Brandywine. Popular hybrids include Better Boy, Big Boy, and Sun Gold. Now let's talk about how you can start growing tomatoes. Tomatoes need a long growing season, so start them indoors about 6 to 8 weeks before the average last frost date where you live. Use seed trays or small pots filled with seed starting mix. Moisten the soil. Make small holes about 1/4 inch deep and plant 1 to 2 seeds per hole. Cover the trays with a humidity dome or plastic wrap to retain moisture during germination. Place your seed trays or pots in a warm spot with plenty of light. If you don't have a sunny window, grow lights are a great alternative. Aim for 14 to 16 hours of light daily. Rotate the trays daily to ensure even light exposure and prevent leggy seedlings. Tomato seeds typically germinate in 5 to 10 days at a consistent temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Warmer temperatures within the range of 75 to 85 degrees can speed up germination slightly. Caring for seedlings. Once your seedlings sprout, keep the soil consistently moist, but not waterlogged. Watering from the bottom helps prevent fungal diseases. When your seedlings develop their second set of true leaves, thin them to 1 strong seedling per pot. Turn the plants daily to prevent them from leaning toward the light. Use a fan or gently brush the tops of the seedlings daily to strengthen stems. Fertilize the seedlings lightly with a diluted liquid fertilizer, such as fish emulsion, once the first true leaves appear. Potting up tomatoes. When your seedlings outgrow their starter pots, it's time to pot them up. Potting up a tomato means transplanting a young tomato seedling from a smaller container into a larger one to give its roots more room to grow. This process promotes strong root development and healthy plant growth before it is moved to its final location in the garden or a large pot. To pot up a tomato, choose a container that's 1.5 to 2 times larger. Carefully transplant each seedling, keeping the soil around the roots intact. Use a high-quality potting mix with good drainage. Add a pinch of slow-release organic fertilizer to the new potting soil. Handle seedlings gently to avoid damage to their tender stems. Gradually expose the plants to slightly cooler temperatures to strengthen them. Hardening off and transplanting seedlings to the garden. A week before transplanting your tomato seedlings into the garden, harden off your seedlings. Hardening off is the process of gradually exposing indoor-grown seedlings to outdoor conditions, such as sunlight, wind, and fluctuating temperatures. Set seedlings outdoors for an increasing amount of time each day for a week. This helps seedlings adapt to the outdoors and prevents transplant shock. Start with a couple of hours in the shade and increase their time outside daily. Where to grow tomatoes? The ideal place to grow tomatoes in the garden is a spot that receives full sun for at least 6 to 8 hours a day. Choose a spot that has well-drained, nutrient-rich soil and is sheltered from strong winds. Prepare the soil by loosening it and adding compost or well-rotted manure. This ensures your tomatoes have rich, well-draining soil to thrive. Test the soil pH and adjust to a range of 6 to 6.8 for optimal growth. Tomatoes can be transplanted into the garden when the soil temperature is at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit and the air temperature stays consistently above 50 degrees. The optimal daytime temperatures for tomato growth are 70 to 85 degrees. Tomatoes can withstand nighttime temperatures as low as 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 50 degrees, growth will slow significantly. Nighttime temperatures below 45 degrees Fahrenheit are too cold and can stress the plants, while frost will damage or kill them. Protect tomatoes with row covers or under a plastic tunnel if temperatures dip unexpectedly. To transplant tomatoes into the garden, start by digging a deep hole or trench. Bury the seedling deeper than it was in its container, up to the first set of true leaves. This will encourage root growth along the buried stem. Space the plants about 2 feet apart to promote good air circulation and reduce the risk of disease. Install stakes or cages at planting time to support the plants. Support the plants early to avoid disturbing roots later. Water thoroughly after planting to help the seedlings settle into the soil. Watering, feeding, and mulching tomatoes. Throughout the growing season, water tomatoes deeply and regularly. Aim for moist but not soggy soil. Morning watering is best to prevent diseases. Avoid wetting leaves late in the day to reduce the risk of fungal diseases. Mulch around the base of your plants to retain moisture and suppress weeds. Use weed fabric or plastic sheeting or a layer of straw or shredded leaves as mulch to regulate soil temperature. Feed your tomatoes every 2 to 3 weeks with a balanced organic fertilizer or compost tea. The best organic fertilizers for tomatoes are those rich in nutrients that promote healthy growth, strong roots, and fruit production. Popular options include compost, well-aged manure, fish emulsion, and seaweed-based fertilizers. For an ideal NPK formula, a balanced fertilizer with a ratio of 5-10-10 or 8-24-24 is often recommended, as it provides enough nitrogen for initial growth, but a higher phosphorus and potassium content for strong root development and fruiting. Tomato plants are prone to several pests and diseases that can affect their growth and yield. Common pests include aphids, whiteflies, and tomato hornworms. Use insecticidal soap or neem oil to control aphids and other insect pests, such as stink bugs. Handpick hornworms and destroy them. Whiteflies can be managed with yellow sticky traps and insecticidal soap. As for diseases, early blight and late blight are 2 fungal diseases that can cause severe damage. Preventive measures, like choosing resistant varieties, good air circulation around plants, and rotating crops, as well as applying copper-based fungicides, are key. 2 more fungal diseases, septoria leaf spot and powdery mildew, can be managed by removing infected leaves, ensuring proper airflow, and using organic fungicides like sulfur or neem oil. To prevent these issues, it's essential to maintain good plant health through proper spacing, watering, and mulching. Regularly inspect plants for signs of pests and diseases, and take prompt action when problems arise to keep your tomatoes thriving. Blossom end rot is a common tomato malady marked by dark, sunken spots at the blossom end of the fruit. It's not a disease, but a physiological condition caused by a calcium deficiency in the developing fruit, often exacerbated by inconsistent watering or fluctuating soil moisture. To prevent blossom end rot, add Epsom salts, which is magnesium sulfate, around the base of plants early in the season. Water regularly to keep the soil just moist, but don't overwater. Pruning tomatoes. Tomatoes should be pruned to improve air circulation, reduce disease risk, and encourage stronger fruit production. Pruning also helps direct the plant's energy toward developing fruit rather than excess foliage. To prune tomatoes, focus on removing suckers, which are the small shoots that grow in the leaf axils, where the stem meets the leaves. Determinate tomato varieties are best pruned lightly to avoid removing too many growth points. Determinate tomatoes grow to a predetermined height, typically 3 to 4 feet, and produce flowers and fruit at the ends of most of their branches. Once the plant reaches its full size, it stops growing and focuses on ripening fruit. Avoid pruning the ends of branches where flowers and fruits will grow. Indeterminate vining varieties can be pruned more aggressively. To prune indeterminate tomatoes, start by removing all suckers, the small shoots in leaf axils below the first flower cluster, to focus the plant's energy on fruit production. Decide whether to grow a single main stem or allow 1 or 2 suckers below the first flower cluster to grow into additional stems for a higher yield. Check weekly to remove new suckers while they're small, and trim the lower leaves below the first fruit cluster to prevent disease and improve airflow. Thin, dense foliage to enhance sunlight and air circulation, but avoid over-pruning to prevent sun scald and maintain photosynthesis. Always prune with clean, sharp tools during dry weather. Regularly remove any dead or yellowing leaves, especially those near the bottom of the plant, to improve air circulation. And now, harvesting tomatoes. Tomatoes are ready to harvest when they reach their full color: red, yellow, orange, or purple, depending on the variety. The fruit should feel firm, but give a little when gently squeezed. It's best to harvest tomatoes when they are fully ripe for the best flavor, though you can pick them slightly underripe if needed and let them ripen indoors in a warm spot. To harvest, gently lift and twist, or use pruners or garden scissors to cut the fruit from the vine. Leave a small stem attached to the fruit to help prolong its shelf life. If you're harvesting a lot of tomatoes, wear gloves to protect your hands from the plant's leaves and stems. Store harvested tomatoes at room temperature for the best flavor. If frost is approaching, pick green tomatoes and let them ripen indoors. You can save the seeds from open-pollinated and heirloom varieties to grow next season. Remove the seeds and let them dry before storing. And there you have it. That's how you grow your own tomatoes from seed to harvest. We hope you found this guide helpful and that you're excited to start your tomato growing journey. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more gardening tips. To read our full tomato growing guide, go to harvesttotable.com and enter Grow Tomatoes in the search bar or click on the links below. Thanks for watching today. Happy gardening! We'll see you in the next video.